She collapsed at the gate with 3 bullets in her body and a knife still buried in her shoulder. Blood painted the snow behind her like a death trail. The SEALs dragged her inside, certain she had minutes to live. But when Commander Marcus Cole saw her face, he stumbled backward. His coffee cup shattered on the ground. His voice cracked, a sound his men had never heard in 15 years of combat. "That's impossible," he whispered. "I watched them put your name on the memorial wall." She opened her eyes, looked directly at him, and smiled. "Hello, Commander. Miss me? Forward Operating Base, Black Point, Afghanistan Mountains, December 2019. Before we begin this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel and follow Elena's journey to the very end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels across the world. Now let us begin. The radio crackled to life at 2200 hours. Static first. Then fragments of a voice, young female, impossibly calm despite the gunfire exploding in the background. "Black Point, coordinates 47, under fire, sole survivor." Sergeant Dominic Torres grabbed the receiver. "Identify yourself. Repeat, identify yourself." More static, more gunfire. Then silence. Torres slammed the receiver down. "Commander, we've got something." Marcus Cole crossed the operations center in 3 strides. He had commanded SEALs for 15 years. He had buried friends, killed enemies, made decisions that haunted him at 3 a.m. when the whiskey ran dry. Nothing surprised him anymore. Nothing. "Play it back," he ordered. The recording filled the room. That voice, young, controlled, professional, even as bullets tore the air around her. "She sounds trained," Torres muttered, "but there's no friendly units within 50 miles of those coordinates." Cole stared at the map. The coordinates pointed to a mountain pass nicknamed the Graveyard by intelligence officers. 3 separate operations had failed there in the past year. No one went in. No one came out. "Get a drone up," Cole said. "I want eyes on that location in 10 minutes. "Sir, in this blizzard. 10 minutes, Sergeant." 23 minutes later, the perimeter alarm screamed. Every SEAL on base grabbed weapons and moved. They had trained for this enemy infiltration suicide bombers' coordinated attacks. They expected chaos. They found something else entirely. A figure crawled through the snow toward the main gate. Not walking. Crawling. Dragging herself forward with hands that left bloody prints in the white. "Hold your fire," Torres shouted. "It's a woman." The floodlights snapped on, illuminating the impossible. She was young, mid-20s at most. Her tactical gear hung in shreds, soaked through with blood that had frozen in patches. Her face was pale, her lips blue. 3 bullet wounds visible. And a combat knife still embedded in her left shoulder, the handle protruding at a sickening angle. She should have been dead miles ago, hours ago. She should have bled out in that mountain pass and become another unmarked grave in Afghan soil. But she kept crawling. Corporal Jensen moved first. "I'm going out there." "Hold position," Torres barked. "We don't know who she is. This could be a trap." "She's dying, Sergeant." "I said hold." The woman's hand reached out, grasping the gate. Her fingers cracked and bloody wrapped around the frozen metal. She pulled herself up to her knees, swayed, almost fell. Then she spoke. "Coordinates, 479er, 8 hostiles eliminated, package secured." Her voice cracked. "Request, immediate." She collapsed face first into the snow. "Open the gate," Jensen shouted, already moving. "Open the damn gate." Torres grabbed his arm. "We need authorization. She just gave us military coordinates, Sergeant. She just reported a tactical engagement. Open the gate, or I'll do it myself." Cole's voice cut through the chaos. "Open it." The men parted. The commander stood at the edge of the floodlights, his face unreadable in the harsh glare. Bring her inside. Now! They carried her to the medical tent. Shaw, the team's medic, took one look at her wounds and went pale. This is bad. This is really bad. He cut away her frozen gear, exposing the damage beneath. 3 GSWs, one to the abdomen, one to the right thigh, one through and through on the left side. The knife in her shoulder missed the artery by millimeters. Frostbite on her fingers. Possible internal bleeding. Can you save her? Cole asked. Shaw looked up. Commander, I don't know how she's still breathing. Her blood pressure is barely registering. Her core temperature is 6 degrees below survivable. By every medical standard, I know this woman should have died 3 hours ago. But she didn't. No, sir, she didn't. Shaw shook his head in disbelief. It's like her body refused to quit. Cole moved closer. He studied her face, the sharp jaw, the dark hair matted with blood, the scar that ran along her left cheekbone. Something stirred in his memory. Something cold and unwelcome. Has she said anything else? She keeps muttering coordinates, and a word. Sounds like specter. Cole's blood turned to ice. What did you say? Shaw looked confused. Specter, sir. She keeps saying specter. The commander's hand shot out and grabbed Shaw's collar. You didn't hear that. Understand me. You didn't hear anything. Sir, I don't. That's an order, Corporal. Whatever she said, whatever she says, it doesn't leave this tent. Not a word. Not to anyone. Shaw nodded slowly, fear replacing confusion. Yes, sir. Cole released him and stepped back. His heart was pounding, actually pounding something that hadn't happened since Fallujah in 2007. It couldn't be her. It was impossible. He had seen the after-action report. He had attended the memorial. He had written the condolence letters himself, 12 of them, one for each operator lost in Operation Midnight Sun. 12 names on a wall. 12 empty caskets. No survivors. But here she was, bleeding on a table, breathing against all odds. Elena Vance, codename Spectre, the ghost he thought he had buried 3 years ago. She woke up fighting. Her eyes snapped open, and before anyone could react, she had Shaw's wrist twisted at an angle that made him cry out. "Where am I?" she demanded. Her voice was hoarse, cracked with dehydration. "Who are you?" "What unit?" "Easy," Shaw gasped. "Easy. You're safe. You're at Forward Operating Base, Black Point, U.S. Navy SEALs." Her grip loosened slightly, her eyes sharp, calculating nothing like someone who had nearly died hours before scanned the tent. "SEALs," she repeated. "Who's your commanding officer?" "Commander Marcus Cole." "Ma'am, please, you need to rest. You've lost a lot of blood. Get him." "Ma'am, get him." Shaw hesitated, then nodded. He pulled free and stumbled toward the tent's entrance, cradling his wrist. Alone, Elena forced herself to sit up. Every movement sent fire through her nerve endings. The knife was gone from her shoulder. Shaw must have removed it, but the wound screamed with each breath. She counted her injuries methodically. 3 bullet wounds, 17 lacerations, 2 cracked ribs, possible concussion. She had survived worse. The tent flap opened. Commander Cole entered. For a long moment, neither spoke. They simply stared at each other, 2 people separated by 3 years, and a secret that should have remained buried. Elena spoke first. "You look older." Cole's jaw tightened. "You look dead." "I get that a lot. Because you are, officially." Elena Vance died in Kandahar province on March 15, 2016. I saw the report. I signed the paperwork. Your name is on a memorial wall in Virginia. Memorials are for people who stay dead. She shifted, wincing at the pain. I never was good at following orders." Cole took a step closer. His voice dropped, dangerous and low. "Do you have any idea what you've done, what your survival means? If anyone finds out, you're finished." Elena's eyes locked onto his. "You left us there, Commander. 12 operators. You called off the extraction. You said the risk was too high, and then you walked away and let us die. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice." Her voice cut like a blade. "You made yours, and now here I am, the ghost you couldn't bury." Cole's hands trembled. He pressed them flat against his thighs, forcing control. How did you survive?" Elena didn't answer. She looked away toward the canvas wall, seeing something far beyond the fabric. "You don't want to know." "I'm asking. And I'm telling you, you don't want to know." Her voice dropped, carrying the weight of 3 years of silence. "Some stories shouldn't be told. Some nightmares shouldn't be shared. What happened after you abandoned us?" She swallowed hard. "That's mine to carry, not yours." Cole exhaled slowly. He pulled a chair across the dirt floor and sat down suddenly, looking every one of his 53 years. "The men are already suspicious," he said quietly. "They've never seen me react to anything. Tonight I nearly dropped my coffee when Shaw pulled the ice off your face. They're going to ask questions." "Then don't answer them." "It's not that simple. I run an elite SEAL team. Trust is everything here. If they think I'm hiding something, you are hiding something." Elena's voice was flat. "You've been hiding it for 3 years. The only difference now is that the evidence is breathing." Cole stared at her. The accusation hung between them, ugly and undeniable. "I did what I had to do," he said finally. "Tell yourself that." Elena lay back down, exhaustion finally winning against adrenaline. "Keep telling yourself that. Maybe one day you'll believe it." Morning came slowly. The blizzard had died overnight, leaving FOB Black Point buried under 2 feet of snow. The SEALs moved through their routines, breakfast equipment checks, briefings, but nothing felt routine. The whispers had already started. "Did you see her wounds?" Jensen said, pushing eggs around his plate. "Shaw said she should be dead 10 times over." Torres shrugged, pretending disinterest. "Civilians wander into bad situations all the time." That wasn't a civilian. Another SEAL, Parker, the team's sniper, leaned forward. "I saw her hands when they carried her in. Calluses from trigger work, scars from blade combat. That woman's been in more firefights than half this table." "So she's private military," Torres said. "Some contractor who got in over her head." "Contractors don't give tactical reports while bleeding out in the snow. Contractors don't quote coordinates like they're reciting their home address." Parker shook his head. "She's government. Has to be. Then why don't we know about her?" The question silenced the table. Finally, Jensen spoke. "What I want to know is why the commander looked like he'd seen a ghost. 20 years I've served under Cole. Never seen him rattled. Never. Not in combat, not during interrogations, not when we lost Miller in 17. But last night he went white. Actually white." "Maybe he knows her," Parker suggested. "From where the commander's file is spotless. Special Warfare Group 3, then DevGru, then this unit. Straightforward career. No black ops, no shadowy bullshit." "That we know of." The words hung in the air. Torres pushed back from the table. "Enough. Whatever's going on, the commander will tell us when he's ready. Until then, we do our jobs. Understood?" Nods around the table. But the unease remained. Elena had refused to stay in the medical tent. By noon, she had pulled herself out of bed, commandeered gear from the supply room, and positioned herself in a corner of the operations center, watching waiting cataloging. The SEALs tried not to stare. They failed. She's creepy as hell, one of the younger operators muttered. Quiet, Torres snapped. She can probably hear you. How she's 30 feet away. Trust me. Torres had spent enough time around special operations personnel to recognize the type. She can hear you. Elena didn't acknowledge the comment. She simply sat, her eyes tracking movement, her mind processing information. She was counting the operators, assessing their capabilities, identifying the leaders, the followers, the wild cards, old habits, survival instincts. Cole entered the operations center at 1400 hours. He saw her immediately, how could he not, and his jaw tightened. You should be resting. I've rested enough. You have 3 bullet wounds. I'm aware. The knife wound in your shoulder required 23 stitches. 24. Shaw miscounted. Cole's eye twitched. The room had gone quiet, every SEAL pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. My medical tent, Cole said. Now. Elena didn't move. We can talk here. That wasn't a request. And I wasn't asking permission. She stood slowly, carefully hiding the pain that shot through her torso. I'm not one of your operators, Commander. You don't give me orders. Torres stepped forward. Ma'am, with respect, this is a military installation. The commander's authority extends to military personnel, Elena interrupted. Which officially I am not. Check the records. Elena Vance died in 2016. You're looking at a ghost. That's enough. Cole's voice had dropped to a dangerous register. Everyone out. No one moved. I said out. The SEALs filed toward the exits, shooting glances back at the confrontation. Torres lingered longest, clearly unwilling to leave his commander. It's fine, Sergeant, Cole said. Close the door. The door clicked shut. Silence settled over the operations center. Elena and Cole faced each other, 2 soldiers carrying 3 years of buried history. You can't stay here, Cole said. I don't have anywhere else to go. Then we'll arrange transport. Get you to a hospital in Germany. Debrief with intelligence officers. Proper channels. Proper channels? Elena laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Do you even hear yourself? There are no proper channels for what I know. There are no hospitals that will ask the right questions. The moment I enter any official system, I become a problem that needs solving. And we both know how the government solves problems. Cole's face tightened. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. Elena moved closer, close enough that Cole could see the exhaustion behind her eyes, the pain she was fighting to hide. Ghost Protocol was never sanctioned by Congress, never approved by the Joint Chiefs. It was black even by Black Ops standards. 37 operators recruited from across the Special Operations community. Missions so classified the files were destroyed before they were filed. I know what Ghost Protocol was. I was a handler for 3 years. Then you know what happens to people who ask questions about it. Elena's voice hardened. Dead operators can't testify. Dead operators can't expose the program. Dead operators can't embarrass the people who gave the orders. Cole swallowed. You think someone will come for you? I know someone will come for me. The moment I use my real name, the moment I access any government system, flags will trigger. And within 24 hours, a cleanup team will be on their way. She paused. That's why I came here. Not to Germany. Not to Virginia. Here. Why? Elena's eyes bored into his. Because you owe me. And because if I'm going to survive, I need people who can fight. Cole said nothing for a long time. He walked to the window, staring out at the snow-covered mountains. His reflection looked back at him, older, grayer, more worn than he remembered. 3 years, he finally said. 3 years I've carried that mission. 3 years I've tried to convince myself I made the right call. Did it work? What do you think? He turned back. I wrote 12 condolence letters. 12. All saying the same thing. Your loved one died serving their country. The details are classified. Do you know what that feels like? Knowing I was the reason and I couldn't even give their families the truth. I know exactly what it feels like. Elena's voice was cold. I watched them die. Davis first took a round through the throat. Collins' next grenade landed 3 feet away. Harper took longest. She held on for 6 hours, kept asking when extraction was coming, kept believing you wouldn't abandon us. Cole flinched like she'd struck him. I begged, Elena continued. Through the radio, I begged. Harper's blood on my hands, enemy patrols closing in, and I begged for extraction. Do you remember what you said? Elena. You said the risk assessment was too high. You said losing the extraction team would compound the failure. You said... Her voice cracked. You said we were already gone. I was following orders. And I was following mine. Elena's composure finally shattered. I was following orders when I took that mission. I was following orders when I watched my team get slaughtered. The only orders I broke were the ones that said to die quietly. She was shaking now from rage, from exhaustion, from 3 years of grief, finally finding an outlet. Cole stood frozen. He had faced enemy fire. He had endured interrogation training. He had buried friends and made impossible decisions, but he had never felt as small as he did in this moment. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Sorry doesn't bring them back. I know. Sorry doesn't undo what you did. I know. Elena's breathing slowed. The anger drained from her face, leaving something worse behind emptiness. The men outside, she said. They're going to keep asking questions. What are you going to tell them? Cole hesitated. The truth. You can't, not all of it. He held up a hand. Enough. Enough so they understand what you are. Enough so they'll protect you if it comes to that. Elena studied him, searching for deception. Why would you do that? You've spent 3 years covering this up. Why expose yourself now? Cole met her gaze. For the first time, something like honesty flickered in his eyes. Because I'm tired of carrying ghosts. He reached for the door. And maybe keeping you alive is the only way I'll ever be able to sleep again. He left. Elena stood alone in the operations center, her wounds throbbing, her mind racing. She had come here looking for shelter. She had found something else entirely. A commander eaten alive by guilt. A team of SEALs who didn't trust her. And somewhere out there, closing in with every hour, the people who wanted her permanently silent. She touched the scar on her cheekbone, the one she'd gotten in Kandahar the night her world burned. Still here? She whispered. Still breathing. Outside, the wind howled through the mountains, carrying the sound of approaching storm. The door had barely closed behind Cole when the whispers began. Torres gathered his men in the far corner of the mess hall, voices, low, eyes sharp. Something's wrong. The commander's hiding something big. You saw his face, Jensen said. I've never seen him like that. Never. Parker crossed his arms. So what do? We can't just ignore this. We watch, Torres said. We wait. And we figure out who the hell she really is. The words hung heavy between them. 15 years of trust in their commander shaken in a single night by a woman who should have been dead. Elena knew they were watching. She felt their eyes on her every time she moved through the base, every time she entered a room. The hostility was palpable, thick enough to cut. She didn't care. She had survived worse than suspicious glances. She had survived 18 hours hiding beneath her best friend's corpse while enemy fighters searched the bodies around her. She had survived a 3-week crawl through hostile territory with wounds that should have killed her twice over. These men and their whispers meant nothing. But their skills might mean everything. She needed to know what she was working with. If the cleanup team came, if the people who wanted her dead finally tracked her down, she needed to know whether these SEALs could fight beside her or if they would fold. So she watched them too. Torres moved like a man who had seen too much and refused to break. His commands were sharp, his expectations absolute. The younger operators followed him without question. Jensen was different. Emotional. Quick to anger, quick to defend. The kind of soldier who led with his heart and calculated later. Dangerous in combat. Unpredictable in crisis. Parker rarely spoke. He observed cataloged, filed away information like a machine processing data. His sniper training had taught him patience, but Elena recognized something else beneath the calm. A coldness. A willingness to pull the trigger without hesitation. Shaw stayed close to the medical tent. He glanced at Elena whenever she passed, a mixture of fear and fascination in his eyes. He had seen her wounds. He knew what she had survived. And he couldn't reconcile the walking, talking woman with the corpse that should have been. "She's watching us," Jensen muttered to Torres during afternoon drills. "Every time I look up, she's there, just staring." "Let her stare. It's unnerving." "Then don't let it unnerve you." Torres loaded a fresh magazine into his rifle. "She's testing us, figuring out who we are, what we can do. It's what I'd do in her position." "And what position is that exactly? We still don't know anything about her." Torres paused. "Then maybe it's time we found out." The confrontation came 2 hours later. Elena had positioned herself in the armory, inventorying weapons, checking maintenance logs. She heard the footsteps before the door opened. 2 sets. Heavy. Deliberate. Torres entered first, followed by Parker. They didn't speak. They simply stood there, blocking the exit, waiting. Elena didn't look up. "Can I help you, Sergeant? You can start by telling us who you are." "Commander Cole didn't debrief you. The commander said you were special operations. He said you were someone he knew from a previous assignment. He didn't say which assignment. He didn't say how you survived getting shot 3 times and walking through a blizzard." Torres stepped closer. "So I'm asking you directly. Who are you?" Elena set down the rifle she had been inspecting. She turned slowly, facing them both. "My name is Elena Vance. I was recruited into a program called Ghost Protocol when I was 21 years old. I served for 3 years. I completed 37 missions across 12 countries, and then my team was sent into Kandahar province on an operation that was never supposed to exist." She paused, letting the words sink in. 12 operators went in. I was the only one who came out." Torres didn't blink. "Ghost Protocol. Never heard of it." "You weren't supposed to." "Convenient." "It's not convenient, Sergeant. It's classified. The kind of classified that gets people killed for asking questions." Elena's voice hardened. "You want to know who I am? Fine. I'm the woman who watched her entire team die because our extraction was called off. I'm the woman who spent 18 hours lying under my best friend's body while enemy fighters stripped the dead around me. I'm the woman who crawled for 3 weeks through hostile territory with bullets in her chest because dying wasn't an option." She took a step forward. Neither man moved. "I'm not your enemy. I'm not a threat to your base or your mission or your commander, but I'm also not going to justify my existence to men who've never walked the roads I've walked." Silence filled the armory. Parker spoke first, his voice quiet. "Prove it." Elena tilted her head. "Excuse me. Prove you're what you say you are." He gestured toward the weapons rack. "Field strip and reassemble. Any weapon on that wall. Your choice." Torres frowned. "Parker, if she's ghost protocol, she can do it in her sleep. If she's lying, she'll fumble." Parker's eyes never left Elena. "Simple test." Elena held his gaze for a long moment. Then she smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator accepting a challenge. She turned to the weapons rack. Her eyes scanned the options: M4 carbines, MP5 submachine guns, Sig Sauer handguns. Standard fare. Too easy. Her hand closed around an HK-416. "Timer," she said. Parker pulled out his phone thumb, hovering over the screen. "Ready? Go." Her hands moved like water. The magazine dropped. The charging handle pulled back. Bolt carrier removed. Firing pin extracted. Buffer spring released. Every piece came apart with mechanical precision muscle memory carved into her bones through years of repetition. Torres watched his expression shifting from skepticism to surprise. The weapon lay in pieces on the table. Elena didn't pause. She reversed the process, each component sliding back into place with satisfying clicks. Magazine seated. Charging handle racked. Forward assist engaged. She set the rifle down and stepped back. "Time," Parker said quietly. 43 seconds. Torres stared at the weapon. "That's faster than me." "It's faster than anyone on this base," and Parker pocketed his phone. "I've seen competition shooters who couldn't match that speed." Elena shrugged. "When you train 18 hours a day for 3 years, you get fast." The two SEALs exchanged glances. Something shifted in the air between them. Not trust, not yet, but the first crack in the wall of suspicion. Torres cleared his throat. "All right, you can handle a weapon. But special operations isn't just about guns. It's about combat. Real combat. Hand to hand. You want to fight me? I want to see what you can do." Elena studied him. He was bigger than her by 40 pounds, taller by 6 inches. He had reach weight and 20 years of experience. By every physical measure, he should dominate. But she had learned long ago that physical measures meant nothing. "Fine," she said. "Lead the way." Word spread fast. By the time they reached the training area, a dozen SEALs had gathered. Jensen stood at the front, arms crossed, clearly skeptical. Shaw lingered near the back, looking uncomfortable. Torres stepped onto the mat, rolling his shoulders. "Standard rules. First to pin or submit wins." Elena removed her jacket, revealing the bandages still wrapped around her torso. The movement drew murmurs from the crowd. "You sure about this?" Torres asked. "Those wounds are my concern, not yours." She stepped onto the mat. For a moment they circled each other. Torres moved with practiced confidence, his stance balanced, his hands ready. He had done this 1,000 times. He expected another routine sparring match. Elena struck first. She feinted left, drawing his guard, then pivoted right and drove her elbow into his solar plexus. He grunted, stumbling back, but recovered quickly. His counterswing came fast, aimed at her injured side. She wasn't there. She had already moved, slipping behind him, her arm snaking around his neck in a chokehold. He reached up to break the grip, but she dropped her weight, pulling him off balance. They hit the mat together. Torres thrashed, trying to reverse the position, but Elena's legs had already locked around his waist. She squeezed, cutting off his air. "Submit," she said quietly. He struggled for another 3 seconds. Then his hand tapped the mat twice. Elena released him immediately. She stood offering her hand to help him up. He stared at it for a long moment. Then he took it. 8 seconds, Jensen said from the sidelines. His voice was hollow with disbelief. 8 goddamn seconds. The SEALs stood frozen. They had just watched their senior NCO, a man who had never lost a sparring match in 15 years, get dismantled by a wounded woman half his size. Torres rubbed his neck, grimacing. "Where the hell did you learn to fight like that?" Elena met his eyes. "The same place I learned everything else. Somewhere we weren't supposed to be." She walked off the mat without another word. The crowd parted to let her pass. That night, the mess hall was quieter than usual. The SEALs ate in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. Elena sat alone at a corner table, picking at her food without appetite. Her wounds ached. The fight with Torres had reopened something in her shoulder, and she could feel warm blood seeping into the bandage. She didn't care. Pain was familiar. Pain meant she was still alive. Jensen approached her table tray in hand. He hesitated, clearly wrestling with something. "Mind if I sit?" Elena gestured to the empty seat across from her. He sat down heavily. For a moment, he just pushed food around his plate, avoiding her eyes. "I owe you an apology," he finally said. "When you first arrived, I thought you were a liability. Some contractor who got in over her head. Someone we'd have to protect. And now I think we might be the ones who need protection." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "The way you took down Torres. That wasn't training. That was instinct. Killer instinct. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's supposed to be an observation." Jensen leaned forward. "I've served with some of the best operators in the world. Rangers, Green Berets, Delta. None of them moved the way you do. It's like violence is your first language." Elena set down her fork. "When you spend 3 years being trained to kill, violence becomes the only language that matters. You don't think, you don't hesitate, you react. The moment you start thinking is the moment you die." That sounds exhausting. It is. For the first time, something like fatigue crossed her face. "You want to know the truth, I don't remember what it feels like to be normal. To walk down a street without cataloging escape routes, to sit in a room without identifying threats, to sleep without one hand on a weapon." Jensen was quiet for a long moment. "Is that why you're here? You're looking for somewhere you can stop running?" "I'm not running." Elena's voice hardened. "I'm surviving. There's a difference." "Is there—" Before she could answer, the operations center alarm blared. Both of them were on their feet, instantly moving toward the door. The mess hall emptied in seconds, every SEAL sprinting toward their stations. Cole was already in the operations center when they arrived, bent over a communications console. His face was grim. "What do we have?" Torres demanded. "Intercepted transmission. Enemy frequency. They're planning something big." Jensen moved to the console, scanning the data. "This is encrypted. Our systems can't crack it." "I can." Every head turned toward Elena. She pushed through the crowd, shouldering past the operators until she reached the console. Her eyes scanned the encrypted text patterns, clicking into place in her mind. "This is Cyrillic-based encryption," she said. "Modified for field use. Ghost Protocol encountered it in Chechnya, Syria, and northwestern Afghanistan. It's used by a specific network of arms dealers who supply insurgent cells throughout the region." Cole stared at her. "You can read it. I can decode it." Her fingers moved across the keyboard. "Give me 5 minutes." The room held its breath. 4 minutes and 37 seconds later, Elena stepped back from the console. Her face had gone pale. "It's an ambush," she said. "Targeting a convoy, your convoy, tomorrow's supply run." Torres moved to her side, scanning the decoded text. "They've got numbers, positioning, timing. This is detailed. Someone leaked our operational plans. Not just someone. Elena pointed to a section of the message. This references an inside source. Someone on this base is feeding them information. The words hit like a bomb. Cole's jaw tightened. That's impossible. These men are the only ones who knew about tomorrow's convoy route. Elena turned to face him. Someone talked, and unless we figure out who every operator on that convoy is going to die. The silence that followed was absolute. Torres looked at Cole. Jensen looked at Elena. The other SEALs looked at each other, suspicion already poisoning the air. We need to cancel the convoy, Jensen said. We can't. Cole shook his head. Those supplies are critical. Medical equipment, ammunition, food. Without them, this base doesn't survive another 2 weeks. So we walk into an ambush. We prepare for one. Cole turned to Elena. You decoded this message. You know how they operate. What would you do? Elena hesitated. She had spent 3 years avoiding exactly this situation. Involvement, connection, responsibility for lives other than her own. But she looked at these men suspicious, scared, desperate, and saw something she recognized. She saw herself. 3 years ago, before Kandahar, before the world burned. Change the route, she said. Take the mountain pass instead of the valley road. It's longer, but it eliminates their positioning advantage. The mountain pass is exposed, Torres argued. No cover. Exactly. No cover means no ambush points. They're expecting you to take the valley. They've set up kill zones along the predictable route. If you take the unpredictable route, you force them to improvise. Cole considered this. And the traitor? Elena's eyes scanned the room, cataloging faces. We feed false information. Tell everyone the convoy is delayed by 24 hours. The real convoy leaves at the original time. Whoever leaks the false intel reveals themselves. That's a hell of a gamble. It's the only play we have. Elena met Cole's gaze. Unless you'd rather trust that everyone in this room is loyal, and we both know that's not a bet you can afford to make. Cole stood silent for a long moment. The weight of command pressed down on him, visible in the lines of his face, the tension in his shoulders. Finally, he nodded. Do it. Elena turned back to the console, her fingers already moving. But her mind was elsewhere. Somewhere in this room stood a traitor. Someone who had sold out their brothers. Someone who had condemned an entire convoy to death for reasons she couldn't yet fathom. She had survived Kandahar because she trusted no one. Now she was in a room full of suspects, and the only person she knew was guilty, was herself guilty of caring again when caring had nearly destroyed her once before. The wind howled outside, carrying the promise of another storm. But the real storm was already inside the base, hiding behind a familiar face waiting to strike. And Elena Vance, the ghost who refused to die, was the only one who could stop it. The false information spread through the base like wildfire. Elena watched from the operations center as Cole announced the convoy delay to his men. 24 hours, he told them. Mechanical issues with the lead vehicle. Nothing to worry about. The SEALs accepted it without question. They trusted their commander. They had no reason not to. But somewhere in that room, a traitor was already calculating, already planning to pass the false intel to the enemy. Elena studied each face, searching for the tell, the nervous glance, the too casual shrug, the eyes that didn't quite meet Cole's. She found nothing. These men were professionals. They had been trained to hide their emotions, to mask their intentions. If one of them was selling out his brothers, he was doing it behind a face that gave away nothing. Anything? Cole asked quietly, appearing at her side. Nothing obvious. The traitor is good. That's what worries me. Torres approached, his expression troubled. "Commander, I don't like this. If we're wrong about the delay, we're sitting ducks." "We're not wrong." Cole's voice carried absolute certainty. "The real convoy leaves in 6 hours, same route Elena suggested. Mountain Pass. And the men, tell them at the last minute. The fewer people who know, the smaller the chance of another leak." Torres nodded, but the doubt in his eyes remained. "Sir, I have to ask, how much do we actually trust her?" He didn't lower his voice. Elena heard every word. Cole turned to face his sergeant. "You saw what she did to you on the mat. You saw how fast she decoded that transmission. She's the only reason we know about the ambush at all." "That's not what I'm asking." Torres stepped closer, dropping his voice now. "How do we know she's not the leak? She shows up out of nowhere, wounded, desperate. She decodes a message that nobody else could read. She points fingers at one of our own. What if she's playing us? She's not." "How can you be sure?" Cole's jaw tightened. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he turned and walked toward his quarters, gesturing for Torres to follow. Elena watched them go. She knew what was coming. The truth. Cole closed the door behind Torres and turned to face him. "What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. Understood?" Torres nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. 3 years ago, I was assigned as a handler for a black operations unit. Ghost Protocol. 37 operators recruited from across the special operations community. The best of the best. They went places we couldn't go, did things we couldn't acknowledge." "I've never heard of Ghost Protocol." "You weren't supposed to. Nobody was." Cole paced the small room, his hands clasped behind his back. "Elena Vance was one of them. She was 21 when they recruited her, 24 when I sent her team into Kandahar." Torres's expression shifted. "Sir, let me finish." Cole stopped pacing. His voice dropped heavy with something that might have been grief. "The mission went wrong. Enemy forces were waiting for them. Someone had leaked their position. 12 operators walked into a trap and He trailed off. "Commander, I called off the extraction." Cole's words came out like broken glass. "I was ordered to. The risk assessment was too high. Sending in the rescue team would have exposed the program. So I made the call. I left them there." Torres stood frozen. "You left them to die." "I followed orders." Cole's voice cracked. "I did what I was told, and 12 people paid the price. But she survived." "She survived." Cole turned to face him. "I don't know how. I don't know what she went through to get out of there. But she did. And now she's here, and she's the only reason we know that someone on this base is selling us out." Torres absorbed this in silence. His face cycled through emotions. Shock, anger, something that might have been disgust. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. "Does she know that you're the one who—" "She knows. She's known from the moment she saw my face. And she still helped us." Cole shook his head slowly. "I don't understand it either. By all rights, she should want me dead. I took everything from her. Her team, her life, her future. And yet she decoded that message. She warned us about the ambush." Torres let out a long breath. "Why would she do that?" "Because she's a soldier." Cole's voice was quiet. "And soldiers protect each other, even when they shouldn't." The door opened behind them. Elena stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "The convoy leaves in 4 hours," she said. "If we're going to catch the traitor, we need to move now." The trap was simple. Elena positioned herself in the communications room with access to the base's secure channels. If anyone transmitted information to the enemy, she would catch it. The hours crawled by. Midnight approached. The SEALs prepared in silence, loading vehicles, checking weapons, running through contingencies. The tension was suffocating. At 0130 hours, Elena's console lit up. Someone was transmitting. She traced the signal in seconds, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The encryption was sophisticated, but she had broken harder codes under worse conditions. The source resolved on her screen, and her blood turned to ice. She grabbed her sidearm and ran. The communications antenna was on the eastern edge of the base, a metal tower rising against the night sky. Elena moved fast, her wounds screaming with every step, her heart pounding against her ribs. She reached the tower and stopped. A figure stood at the base, hunched over a portable transmitter. The device glowed faintly in the darkness, its signal pulsing toward the enemy. "Step away from the transmitter," Elena said. The figure turned. Shaw, the medic, the man who had stitched her wounds and watched her sleep. "Elena." His voice was calm. Too calm. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out. You're the traitor. I'm the realist." Shaw straightened, making no move to reach for a weapon. "Do you have any idea what's happening out there? This war is lost. It's been lost for years. The only question is how many more of us have to die before someone admits it. So you sell out your brothers?" "I save who I can." His eyes flickered with something that might have been regret. "The enemy offered a deal. Information for safe passage. When this base falls, and it will fall, the men who helped them will be spared." "You're delusional." "I'm practical." Shaw took a step toward her. "You should understand. You survived Kandahar by any means necessary. I'm doing the same thing. I survived by refusing to give up. You're giving up on everyone who trusted you." Shaw shook his head slowly. "You don't understand. You've been alone for 3 years. I've been watching these men die one by one for 5. Every convoy, every patrol, every mission, someone doesn't come back. I can't do it anymore. I won't. So you condemn them instead. I give them a chance." Shaw's voice rose. "If the ambush succeeds, the enemy gets what they want. Supplies, weapons, victory. And in exchange they leave the survivors alone. It's a trade, lives for lives." Elena's finger tightened on her trigger. "You're making a deal with people who will kill you the moment you're no longer useful." "Maybe, but at least I tried." Shaw met her eyes. "You of all people should understand that. You tried to survive, and look where it got you. Alone. Broken. Haunted by ghosts that will never let you go." "I'm not alone anymore." The words surprised her as much as they surprised Shaw. She meant them. For 3 years, she had carried her dead on her shoulders. For 3 years, she had refused connection, refused trust, refused anything that might make her vulnerable. But these SEALs, these stubborn, suspicious, loyal SEALs, had done something she thought was impossible. They had made her feel like she belonged. "Put down the transmitter," she said. "Last chance." Shaw hesitated. His hand moved toward his belt. Elena fired. The bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him away from the transmitter. He cried out, clutching the wound, his eyes wide with shock. "I said last chance." Elena moved forward, kicking the transmitter away. "You're lucky I don't believe in killing unarmed men." Footsteps thundered behind her. Torres arrived, first weapon raised, followed by Jensen and 3 other SEALs. They took in the scene, Shaw bleeding on the ground, Elena standing over him, the transmitter sparking in the dirt. "What the hell happened?" Torres demanded. "We found our traitor." The SEALs stared at Shaw. Disbelief. Betrayal. Rage. Every emotion flickered across their faces in rapid succession. Jensen moved first, grabbing Shaw by the collar and hauling him upright. "You son of a bitch! You sold us out!" "I was trying to save you." Shaw gasped. All of you, the ambush. The ambush you arranged. Torres's voice was deadly quiet. The ambush that would have killed every man on that convoy. Shaw's face crumpled. The reality of what he had done, the reality of what he had become, finally broke through his justifications. I never meant, take him to holding. Cole's voice cut through the chaos. The commander had arrived, his face carved from stone. We'll deal with him after the mission. The SEALs dragged Shaw away. He didn't resist. Whatever fight he had left had drained out with his blood. Elena watched him go, her weapon still drawn. You saved the convoy, Cole said quietly. I did my job. It's more than that. He moved to stand beside her. You could have walked away. You could have let it play out, let us learn the hard way. Instead, you risked your life to protect men who didn't trust you. They still don't trust me. They will. Cole's voice carried certainty. After tonight, they will. The convoy rolled out at 0300 hours. Elena rode in the lead vehicle beside Torres. Her wounds freshly bandaged, her senses on high alert. The mountain pass stretched ahead of them, empty and exposed. It's too quiet, Jensen muttered from the back seat. Quiet is good, Torres replied. Quiet means no ambush. Quiet means they're waiting for something. Elena said nothing. Her eyes scanned the ridgeline, searching for movement, for the glint of metal in the moonlight. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong, but she couldn't identify what. The convoy climbed higher. The road narrowed. The mountains closed in around them like walls of a trap. Wait, Elena held up a hand. Stop the convoy. Torres grabbed the radio. All units halt. Repeat, all units halt. The vehicles ground to a stop. Silence pressed down on them. What do you see? Torres asked. Nothing. That's the problem. Elena opened her door and stepped out, ignoring the protests behind her. She walked forward, her boots crunching on gravel, her eyes locked on the road ahead. And then she saw it. A wire. Thin. Almost invisible. Stretched across the road at ankle height. IED, she shouted. Get back, get... The explosion came not from the road, but from the ridgeline above. RPG. The rocket screamed down and struck the second vehicle, flipping it onto its side in a burst of flame and shrapnel. Gunfire erupted from both sides of the pass. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness like deadly fireflies. Ambush! Torres bellowed. All units' defensive positions, return fire! The SEALs poured out of their vehicles, taking cover behind wheels and engine blocks. Bullets tore through metal and glass. Men shouted orders, called positions, screamed for medics. Elena moved without thinking. She grabbed Torres's rifle and sprinted toward the burning vehicle. Two SEALs were trapped inside, struggling to free themselves from the twisted wreckage. Bullets kicked up dirt around her feet, but she didn't slow down. She reached the vehicle and wrenched the door open. Jensen tumbled out, his face bloodied but alive. She grabbed him by the vest and pulled him to cover. The other one, Jensen gasped. Parker's still inside. Elena dove back toward the wreckage. Flames licked at the fuel tank, spreading fast. She could feel the heat searing her skin as she reached through the shattered window and grabbed Parker's arm. Come on, move! He was unconscious. Dead weight. She braced her feet and pulled, dragging him through the broken glass inch by inch. The fire was getting closer. The fuel tank could blow any second. With a final heave, she pulled him free and threw herself backward, shielding his body with hers. The vehicle exploded. The blast wave slammed into them, sending them tumbling across the gravel. Elena's ears rang. Her vision blurred. But she was alive. They were both alive. "Get him to cover!" she shouted, though she couldn't hear her own voice. Strong hands grabbed Parker and dragged him away. Elena forced herself upright, grabbing a rifle from a fallen SEAL, and turned toward the enemy positions. She could see them now. Muzzle flashes on the ridge. At least 20 fighters, maybe more. They had the high ground, the element of surprise. By every tactical measure, the SEALs were already dead. Elena didn't care about tactical measures. She ran toward the ridge. Bullets screamed past her. One grazed her arm, drawing blood. Another punched through her vest, stopped by the ceramic plate beneath. She kept running. She reached the base of the ridge and began to climb. Handholds, footholds, sheer will pushing her upward. Her wounds screamed. Her muscles burned. Her lungs felt like they were filled with fire. She reached the top. The first fighter didn't see her coming. She took him down with a knife to the throat, catching his rifle before it hit the ground. The second turned at the noise and caught 3 bullets in the chest. Elena moved through the enemy position like a ghost. Strike. Move. Strike. Again. No wasted motion. No hesitation. 3 years of rage and grief and survival channeled into pure, devastating violence. 6 fighters down. 8. 10. The remaining enemies scattered their coordinated attack, dissolving into chaos. Without the high ground, their advantage was gone. Below, the SEALs pressed forward, emboldened by the confusion above. Torres led a flanking maneuver that caught the remaining fighters in a crossfire. Within minutes, it was over. Silence returned to the mountain pass. Elena stood alone on the ridge, surrounded by bodies, her chest heaving. Blood dripped from wounds both old and new. Her hands trembled with exhaustion, but she was still standing. Cole found her there 10 minutes later. He climbed the ridge slowly, his face pale in the moonlight. 14 confirmed kills, he said quietly. All of them yours. Elena didn't respond. You saved the convoy. You saved all of us. He moved closer. Elena. Don't. Her voice was raw. Don't thank me. Don't apologize. Just don't. Then what do you want? She turned to face him. In the darkness, her eyes were hollow, haunted by things no person should ever have to see. I want them back, she whispered. My team, my brothers. I want them back and I can't have them. So instead I fight, I kill, I survive. Because that's all I know how to do anymore. Cole stood silent. There was nothing he could say. No words that could undo 3 years of agony, 3 years of solitude, 3 years of carrying the dead on shoulders that should have broken long ago. The men are asking about you, he finally said. They want to know who you really are. Not the file, not the code name. You. Tell them the truth. The whole truth. Elena looked back at the bodies littering the ridge, enemies who had tried to kill her and failed, just like everyone else who had tried. Tell them everything. The briefing happened at dawn. The SEALs gathered in the operations center, exhausted but alive. Every face carried the marks of combat bruises, cuts, the hollow eyes of men who had stared down death and refused to blink. Cole stood at the front, his expression grave. What I'm about to tell you is classified beyond anything you've encountered, but after tonight, you've earned the right to know. He took a breath. Her name is Elena Vance, codename Spectre. She was the youngest operator ever recruited into Ghost Protocol, a black operations unit that officially doesn't exist. 3 years ago, I sent her team into Kandahar province on a mission that was never supposed to happen. 12 operators went in. Only one came out. He paused, letting the words sink in. I was her handler, and I was the one who called off the extraction. The room went absolutely still. Torres spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. You left them to die. I followed orders. Cole's voice cracked. And I've lived with that decision every day since. But she... He turned toward Elena, who stood silent in the corner. She survived. 18 hours hiding under the bodies of her teammates while enemy patrols searched the kill zone. 3 weeks crawling through hostile territory with wounds that should have killed her. She survived all of it, and she came here, and she saved every single one of you tonight. The SEALs stared at Elena. The suspicion was gone. The doubt was gone. All that remained was awe. Jensen stepped forward. Why, after what he did to you, why would you save us? Elena met his eyes. Because you're soldiers. Because you fight for each other. Because... Her voice faltered for the first time. Because I spent 3 years alone, and I forgot what it meant to have brothers. Tonight reminded me. Silence hung heavy in the room. Then Torres moved. He walked toward Elena, stopped in front of her, and extended his hand. Welcome to the team, he said simply. Elena looked at his hand, looked at the faces watching her, looked at Cole, whose eyes glistened with something that might have been tears. She took Torres's hand, and for the first time in 3 years, the ghost allowed herself to be seen. The handshake lasted only a moment, but it changed everything. Elena felt something shift inside her chest. A crack in the armor she had worn for 3 years. A tiny fracture that let light seep through the darkness. Torres released her hand and stepped back. The other SEALs watched in silence, uncertain what to do, how to react. They had just learned that their commander had abandoned an entire unit to die. They had just learned that the woman standing before them had survived the unsurvivable. Jensen moved first. He crossed the room and extended his hand. I doubted you. I was wrong. Elena took his hand. You were protecting your team. I would have done the same. One by one, the others approached. Parker, still bandaged from the explosion, limped forward to clasp her forearm in the grip of warriors. 2 younger SEALs, whose names she didn't yet know, followed their eyes, carrying a mixture of respect and something deeper. When the last man had offered his hand, Elena stood surrounded by soldiers who had been strangers 24 hours ago. Now they were something else. Cole watched from the edge of the room, his face unreadable. When the moment passed, he cleared his throat. We have wounded who need attention and a base that needs securing. The enemy knows we're here. They'll regroup and come again. Everyone get some rest while you can. The SEALs dispersed, some heading toward the medical tent, others toward the barracks. Elena remained where she was, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. The adrenaline that had carried her through the night was fading, leaving behind a body that screamed for rest. You should sleep, Cole said quietly. I don't sleep well. I know. Neither do I. He moved closer, his voice dropping. Elena, what you did tonight. I don't have words for it. Then don't try. I have to try. His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw the full weight of his guilt. I've spent 3 years trying to find a way to make it right, knowing there was no way, knowing I could never undo what I did. You can't. I know. But maybe I can start somewhere. He took a breath. Whatever you need. Resources. Support. A way out when this is over. Name it, and it's yours. Elena studied him for a long moment. The commander who had left her to die. The man who had carried that decision like a stone around his neck for 3 years. She saw the gray in his hair that hadn't been there before Kandahar. The lines carved deep around his eyes. The tremor in his hands that he tried so hard to hide. He was broken. Just like her. "There's only one thing I want," she said finally. "Name it. When this is over, I want you to tell the truth. Not to me. Not to your men. To the families. The 12 families who never knew what really happened to their sons and daughters." Cole's face went pale. "Elena, you wrote them letters, condolences. You told them their loved ones died serving their country. You didn't tell them you were the one who pulled the plug." "I couldn't. The program is dead. Ghost Protocol was dismantled after Kandahar. There's nothing left to protect except your own conscience." Elena's voice hardened. Those families deserve to know. They deserve to grieve properly. They deserve to stop wondering if there was something else, some secret their children kept from them. Cole stood silent. The request hung between them heavier than any weapon, more dangerous than any enemy. "That would end my career," he said quietly. "Yes. I'd face court-martial, prison, disgrace. Yes. Is that what you want, revenge?" Elena shook her head slowly. "I don't want revenge. I want justice. There's a difference. Is there? Revenge would be killing you." Her eyes locked onto his. "Justice is making you live with what you did openly, publicly, without the shield of classification to hide behind." Cole absorbed this in silence. His jaw worked, muscles tensing and releasing as he fought some internal battle. "I'll think about it," he finally said. "Don't think too long. I've been waiting 3 years. I won't wait forever." She turned and walked toward the medical tent, leaving Cole standing alone, with the weight of his sins. The nightmares came that night, as they always did. Elena lay on a cot in the corner of the barracks, surrounded by sleeping SEALs. She had refused the private quarters Cole offered. Privacy meant isolation, and isolation meant vulnerability. Sleep pulled her under, and the memories followed. Fire, screaming, the wet sound of bullets tearing through flesh. Davis falling first, his throat exploding in a spray of red. Collins next, the grenade landing so close she felt the heat before the blast. And Harper. Always Harper. Elena's best friend since training. The woman who had taught her to survive, to fight, to keep going when everything inside her wanted to quit. Harper, lying in the dirt with her intestines spilling through her fingers, asking when extraction was coming. Asking why no one was coming. "They'll be here," Elena had said, pressing her hands against the wound, trying to hold her friend together. "Just hold on. They're coming." But they hadn't come. And Harper had died, believing they would. Elena woke with a scream trapped in her throat. Her hands were shaking. Sweat soaked her shirt. For a moment she didn't know where she was, Kandahar, the base, somewhere in between. A hand touched her shoulder. She reacted on instinct, grabbing the wrist and twisting, ready to break bone. "Easy," Jensen's voice calm and steady. "It's me. You're safe." Elena released him, her chest heaving. "I'm sorry, I didn't—" "Don't apologize. I get them too." Jensen sat on the edge of her cot, making no move to leave. "The nightmares. We all do." Elena said nothing. She focused on breathing, on slowing her racing heart. "You were saying names," Jensen continued quietly. "Harper, Davis, Collins. Those were your teammates. They were my family. Tell me about them." The request caught her off guard. No one had asked before. No one had wanted to know about the dead. Why? Because you're carrying them alone, and that's no way to honor the people you loved. Elena stared at him. This young seal with the earnest eyes and the quick temper. He had no idea what he was asking, but something in his voice made her want to answer. Harper was my best friend, she said slowly. We went through selection together. She was stronger than me, faster, smarter. Every time I wanted to quit, she pushed me forward. She said I had something special, something the program needed. What was that? She said I refused to die. Elena's voice cracked. She was wrong about that. I just refused to let the people who killed my team get away with it. That sounds like the same thing. It's not. Elena looked at her hands, remembering the blood that had stained them. Refusing to die means you want to live. I didn't want to live. I wanted to survive long enough to make someone pay. Jensen was quiet for a moment. And now, I don't know. Elena met his eyes. Tonight, when I was pulling Parker out of that burning vehicle, something changed. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about saving him, saving all of you. That's a start. Is it enough? Jensen smiled, the first genuine smile she had seen on his face. It's more than most people ever manage. Give yourself some credit. Before Elena could respond, the base alarm shattered the silence. Every SEAL was on their feet in seconds, grabbing weapons, pulling on gear. Elena moved with them, ignoring the protests of her wounds. Torres met them at the operations center, his face grim. Perimeter sensors triggered. Multiple contacts approaching from the north. How many? Cole demanded. We're still counting. At least 30. Maybe more. That's 3 times what hit us in the pass. I know, sir. Torres's jaw tightened. They're not playing around anymore. Cole turned to the tactical display. Red dots representing enemy forces were converging on the base from multiple directions. A coordinated assault. Sophisticated. Well-planned. This isn't a random attack, Elena said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. This is a cleanup operation. Cleanup? Jensen frowned. Cleaning up what? Me. Elena's voice was flat. Shaw's transmission. He didn't just reveal the convoy route. He revealed that I was here. The people who want me dead know where I am. Cole's face went pale. You're saying this attack is for you. I'm saying they're willing to level this entire base to make sure I don't talk. Elena moved toward the tactical display. Ghost Protocol had enemies at every level of government. People who authorized operations that would make war crimes look like parking violations. As long as I'm dead, those secrets stay buried. But if I live, if I talk, then they're exposed, Cole finished. Exactly. Torres stepped forward. So what do we do? We're outnumbered, outgunned, and cut off from reinforcements. We fight. Elena's voice carried absolute certainty. We hold this base, and we make them pay for every inch. Against those odds, that's suicide. No, that's survival. Elena turned to face the SEALs gathered around her. I've been in worse situations. I've fought my way out of traps that should have killed me 10 times over. These people think they're coming to bury a ghost. They're wrong. They're coming to wake one up. Cole stepped forward. You heard her. Battle stations. Every weapon, every round, every man. We hold this base until reinforcements arrive. And if reinforcements don't come? Torres asked. Then we hold it until we can't anymore. Cole met the eyes of each of his men. But I'm not leaving anyone behind. Not this time. His gaze lingered on Elena. The promise in his words was unmistakable. The SEALs moved with deadly efficiency. Within minutes, the base was transformed into a fortress. Defensive positions established. Fields of fire cleared. Every approach covered by overlapping arcs of death. Elena positioned herself at the northern perimeter, the direction of the main assault. Torres crouched beside her, checking his weapon for the 100th time. "You know," he said quietly, "when you first showed up, I thought you were the problem." "I know. I was wrong." He glanced at her. "You're not the problem. You're the solution." That might be the nicest thing anyone said to me in 3 years. Torres almost smiled. "Don't get used to it. After this is over, I'm going back to being suspicious of everyone." "Fair enough." The first wave hit at 0400. They came out of the darkness like shadows given form. Muzzle flashes erupted from multiple positions. Bullets screamed through the air. Explosions rocked the perimeter. Elena returned fire with mechanical precision. Every squeeze of the trigger found a target. Every round she spent was a life she took. But there were too many of them. For every fighter who fell, 2 more appeared. They moved with coordination that spoke of professional training. These weren't insurgents or local militia. These were operators. Special forces. The kind of men sent to solve problems that couldn't be solved any other way. "They're flanking left," Jensen shouted from his position. "I see them." Parker's sniper rifle barked twice. 2 figures collapsed, but more kept coming. A grenade landed 10 feet from Elena's position. She dove sideways, the blast wave slamming into her and sending her tumbling across the dirt. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. A figure loomed over her, enemy combatant, rifle aimed at her head. She moved on instinct. Her leg swept out, taking his feet from under him. Before he hit the ground, her knife was in her hand. Before he could recover, it was in his throat. She rolled to her feet, grabbed his rifle, and kept fighting. The battle raged for what felt like hours. The SEALs held their positions, but casualties mounted. Parker took a round to the arm and kept shooting one-handed. Jensen was thrown by an explosion, but got back up and charged into the enemy line with nothing but a combat knife. And through it all, Elena fought like something not quite human. She moved through the chaos with terrifying grace. Every motion was calculated. Every decision was instantaneous. She killed without hesitation, without mercy, without pause. The enemy began to fall back. "They're retreating," Torres shouted. "No." Elena's voice was sharp. "They're regrouping." She was right. The second wave came harder than the first. RPGs screamed into the base, destroying vehicles and positions. Heavy machine gun fire pinned the SEALs down. The enemy advanced with overwhelming force, pushing toward the center of the compound. Cole fought alongside his men, directing fire, plugging gaps, refusing to yield. But even he could see the truth. They were being overwhelmed. "We can't hold much longer," Torres shouted over the chaos. Elena's mind raced. The enemy was too strong, too well equipped. Standard tactics wouldn't work. "I need to draw them off," she said. "What? They're here for me. If I break through their line, move into open ground, they'll follow. It'll take pressure off the base." Torres grabbed her arm. "That's suicide." "Maybe, but it gives you a chance. We don't sacrifice people, not anymore." Elena met his eyes. "This isn't sacrifice. This is strategy. I break out, draw their forces away. You hit them from behind while they're focused on me. Classic pincer movement. And when they catch you, they won't." Elena's voice carried absolute conviction. "I've been running from these people for 3 years. They've never caught me. They won't start tonight." Cole appeared beside them, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. "What's the plan?" "She wants to make herself bait," Torres said. Cole looked at Elena. She expected him to argue. Expected him to refuse. Instead, he nodded slowly. Do it. Commander. She's right. It's our best chance. Torres, get the men ready for a counterattack. The moment their focus shifts, we hit them with everything we have. Torres hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. He turned to Elena. Don't die out there. Not planning on it. She moved before anyone could stop her. The breakout was chaos. Elena sprinted toward the eastern perimeter, firing as she ran. Bullets chased her across the compound, kicking up dirt at her heels. She dove through a gap in the wire, rolled, and came up running. Behind her, she heard shouts. Enemy fighters were breaking off, pursuing, just as she had planned. The darkness swallowed her. She ran without looking back, her legs pumping, her lungs burning. The sounds of pursuit grew louder. They were gaining. She reached a rocky outcropping and stopped. Her back against the stone, her weapon raised. They came around the corner in a cluster. 5, 6, 7. Elena opened fire. The first 3 fell before they could react. The 4th got off a shot that grazed her shoulder. She put 2 rounds in his chest. The 5th and 6th dove for cover. The 7th never got the chance. More were coming. She could hear their footsteps, their shouts, dozens of them converging on her position. She changed magazines. 8 rounds remaining. Not enough. A figure appeared above her on the rocks. She spun finger on the trigger. Cole. He was covered in blood, his rifle in his hands, his eyes burning with something she had never seen before. Thought you might need backup, he said. I told you to stay with the men. I don't take orders from you. He dropped into position beside her. Torres has the counterattack. The enemy's in chaos. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they regroup. Then we have 5 minutes to finish this. They moved together 2 soldiers who had been enemies, then strangers, now something else entirely. They flowed through the rocks like water, covering each other, protecting each other, fighting as one. The enemy fell around them, one by one, then in groups, then in waves. When the last fighter dropped, silence descended on the battlefield. Elena stood amid the carnage, her body screaming with pain, her hands slick with blood. Cole stood beside her, breathing hard. It's over, he said. No. Elena's voice was hollow. It's never over. They'll send more. They'll keep sending more until I'm dead, or they are. Then let them come. Cole turned to face her. Because next time they'll have to go through all of us. Elena stared at him. The commander who had abandoned her, the man who had carried that guilt for 3 years, the soldier who had just risked his life to fight beside her. Why? She asked. Why did you come? Cole was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. Because I owe you a life. 12 lives, actually, and I'll never be able to repay that debt. But I can start by making sure you survive. That won't bring them back. I know, but it might be the beginning of something else. He met her eyes. Redemption. Not for me. For what I did. For the choice I made. I can't undo it, but I can spend whatever time I have left trying to be worthy of forgiveness. Elena felt something crack inside her. The wall she had built around her heart. The armor that had kept her alive but also kept her alone. You're not forgiven, she said quietly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know. But, she swallowed hard. But you're trying, and that's more than I expected. Cole nodded slowly. It wasn't absolution. It wasn't peace. But it was something. A start. Behind them, the base came back to life. The SEALs emerged from their positions, battered but alive. Torres led them toward the outcropping, his face carrying a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. We won, he said when he reached them. Lost Martinez and Cooper, but the rest are alive. The enemy is scattered." "They'll be back," Elena said. "Let them." Torres looked at her with something like respect. "We'll be ready." The sun began to rise over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Elena watched it come, her body exhausted, her wounds burning, her heart somehow lighter than it had been in years. She wasn't alone anymore. For the first time since Kandahar, she had brothers again. Not the ones she had lost. Never them. But new ones. Different ones. Men who had seen her at her worst and chosen to stand beside her anyway. Jensen approached a canteen in his hand. "You look like hell." "Feel like it too." He handed her the water. "Drink. The medics are setting up. You're next in line. The others are being treated. You're not getting out of this one." He smiled slightly. "Orders from the entire team." Elena took the canteen and drank deeply. The water was cold, washing away the taste of blood and dust. When she lowered it, Jensen was still watching her. "What you did out there," he said quietly. "Drawing them off, fighting alone. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. It was necessary. It was more than that." He shook his head. "You didn't have to do it. You could have run, could have disappeared like you did before. Instead, you stayed. You fought for us. You would have done the same." "Maybe. But we're supposed to. It's our job." Jensen's voice softened. "You don't owe us anything. You don't even know us. But you stayed anyway." Elena looked at the rising sun, at the mountains that had witnessed so much death and survival. "I stayed because running isn't living," she said finally. "I've been running for 3 years, running from my past, running from my ghosts, running from anyone who might get close enough to hurt me. And now, she turned to face him. "Now I'm tired of running, tired of being alone, tired of carrying the dead by myself." "Then stop." Jensen's voice was simple, direct. "Let us help carry them." Elena felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back, but not before Jensen saw. He didn't comment. He just nodded as if he understood everything she wasn't saying. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you patched up. We've got a lot of rebuilding to do." They walked back toward the base together. The SEALs were gathering, counting their losses, tending their wounded. 2 bodies lay covered by tarps, Martinez and Cooper. Men Elena had barely known but had fought beside anyway. She stopped beside the tarps and stood in silence. Cole appeared at her side. He didn't speak. He simply stood with her, honoring the dead. "I didn't know them," Elena said quietly. "They knew you. They knew what you did for them." Cole's voice was heavy. "They died fighting. That's all any soldier can ask for." "Is it enough?" "It has to be." Elena knelt beside the tarps. She reached out and touched the fabric, feeling the shapes beneath. "I'll remember your names," she whispered. "I'll carry you with the others, and I'll make sure your sacrifice wasn't wasted." She stood and turned away. The sun continued to rise, burning away the darkness of the night. The base was damaged but standing. The men were wounded but alive. And Elena Vance, the ghost, who had wandered for 3 years, had finally found something worth staying for. 3 days passed. The base slowly came back to life. Repairs began on damaged structures. Wounded men healed. The dead were buried with full honors, their names spoken aloud by every SEAL who had fought beside them. Elena stood at the edge of the small cemetery, watching as the last shovel of dirt covered Martinez's grave. She had not known him well. She had not known any of them well. But she had fought beside them. She had bled for them. And that made them hers. Torres approached his arm in a sling from a wound he refused to acknowledge. "The men are asking for you," he said. "For what? They want to raise a toast. To the fallen. They want you there." Elena hesitated. 3 years of solitude had taught her to avoid gatherings, avoid connections, avoid anything that might become another loss to carry. But 3 days of fighting alongside these men had changed something inside her. "I'll be there," she said. The mess hall was crowded when she arrived. Every SEAL who could walk had gathered.